Hi guys, how are we all doing? Welcome back to yet another video. Now I know we're in June, but let's for a bit of fun do a video where I do my early 2021-2022 championship predictions. Let's do this. So then guys, this isn't my official championship predictions for the season. I'll do that in July, but I still thought we'd do one for in June. Seeing how my gut feelings are after the playoffs and how I think each team's going to do based on how they ended last season. As you can see there, I've got 5 tiers, top 6 between 7th and 11th, 12th and 16th, 17th to 21st, and the bottom 3. And as you can see, I've got all of the new championship clubs scattered across in no particular order. So then guys, we'll start with Blackpool FC, who obviously came up through the League One playoffs. Now the bookies will probably write them off, and a lot of people probably will, because they finished, well, they won the League One playoffs, which means out of all these teams, they finished technically the lowest in the football pyramid. But I wouldn't write off Blackpool FC. I know it might be a hard season back in the championship, but as a club, they are on the up. I know since they got relegated from the Premier League, they went all the way down to League 2. But over the last couple of years, the club is trending upwards. And I think it'll be a hard season for Blackpool FC. I don't think it's going to be easy, but I'm going to say they'll survive. I think between 17th and 21st for Blackpool FC. It's going to be tricky. There might be stages where they're in the bottom 3. But over the course of the season, based on what I saw from them in the playoffs and how they ended this season, I think they're going to be good enough. And I think there's going to be worse teams in the Championship than Blackpool. Now, next up, you've got Birmingham City. Now, obviously, they did finish between 17th and 21st. But you've got to take into account that at the start of the season, they had Karanka. And if they'd had Lee Bowyer for the whole season, they'd have definitely finished higher because they started to trend upwards once he came in. And I think they only lost their last couple of games or whatever because they put out the kids. So I'm going to back Birmingham to do one better this time. I'm going to say probably still bottom half, but maybe closer to mid-table this time for Birmingham City. I think 12th to 16th would definitely be a season of progression. I'm sure there's Birmingham fans that will be feeling optimistic. Maybe they can make the top half, maybe even charge towards the playoffs. But I'm going to say between 12th and 16th is realistic for Birmingham City, so that's where I'm going to stick them. Now, next up, you've got Swansea City, a team that have made the playoffs in the Championship 2 years running. And will they make it for a third time? Yes. Yes, they will. I think, although you can't really see their badge there, I'm putting Swansea in the top 6 there. I think, yes, they're going to be strong enough. I do like Swansea. I think they're a decent club. They have been battling in the Championship very well since they got relegated from the Premier League, and they are knocking on the door. It will come. If they keep finishing in the top 6, they won't keep missing out. They'll either get into the top 2 or they will win the playoffs one year. So as you can see, I've put Swansea in the top 6. Well, you might not be able to see that very clearly. Next up, we've got Nottingham Forest. Now, for me, you can put them in the same category as Birmingham. They finished, I think, 17th, so they were in this bracket, but since Houghton came over, they were a better club, so they could have finished higher if they had him for the whole season. So I'm going to put them in the same as Birmingham, 12th to 16th. I think they're going to be a bit like Birmingham, pushing on. Yeah, I think Forest, as a club, they're massive. They've got so much potential. I'm not sure, though. I mean, for me, like I've said in a previous video, they can be a bit of a wild card. I mean, finishing down in 17th wasn't very good, but the season before they finished 7th, so really tricky team to predict, but I'll put Forest between 12th and 16th. Now, next up, you've got Peterborough United. Now, obviously, another team that came up through League One. They came up in 2nd place. Now, they've been in the Championship before. Usually, when they're in the Championship, they don't do too well. I mean, I know they've got up there a few years running, and they've stayed up a few years running, obviously, but I don't remember a season where they've been in the top 6 in the Championship, and I don't ever think Peterborough have ever been in the top flight of English football, or not in the Premier League anyway. So I think Peterborough United, it's going to be a struggle, definitely, a bit like Blackpool. But do I see them staying up? Do you know what? I'll give it to Peterborough. I'm saying that they're just going to stay up. It's going to be so hard. I mean, I might change my mind when the predictions come around next month, but I'll put Peterborough in 17th to 21st. I think Johnson Clark-Harris is so important. If they hold on to him, they're guaranteed goals. And yeah, just hold on to your best players from last season, and I think they'll be all right. Next up, West Bromwich Albion. Now, this for me is just so easy. I think they're going straight up there in top 6. West Brom, they're always too strong, and I feel like for so many of their last few seasons in the Championship, they've always been in the top 6, whether it's, you know, in the playoffs or going up automatically. And I think West Brom will be too strong for the Championship next year. I think them and Fulham in particular are the teams I've got my eye on. But yeah, West Brom, unlucky in the Premier League. They did have good moments. Sam Allardyce couldn't really keep them up, but they had some very respectable scorelines. I mean, that 5-2 win at Chelsea was amazing. And yeah, they're going to be way too strong for the Championship, in my opinion. Next up, Luton Town. This is tricky. They are another club that's trending upwards. And you can really tell when you look at the recent, sort of the last 10 years, and how they've been moving up the football pyramid. You know, they were a non-league team not long ago, and then they went into League Two, and then League One, and then the Championship, and then really pushed on in the Championship last year. I think they finished about 12th or 13th, so that would be in this category. But I'm going to say they're going to do one better. I think Luton Town will push on, and I'm going to say Luton Town finished just outside the playoffs between a 7th and 11th, a top half finish. Some people might criticise me for that. The Luton fans will probably love me for that, but I just think they're a club that are on the up. I like them, and I think they're doing very well, and yeah, good luck to them. Next up, my team, Coventry City. We did finish 16th, so technically we snuck into this category. Now, we are another club that's trending upwards, but the problem is, once you get to the Championship, you really need the money to keep that going, and Coventry City aren't a club that's got money coming out of us. Although we are on a shoestring budget, Mark Robins does usually thrive under that kind of pressure. He's been really good at Coventry City, and you know, like I say, with limited resources. So I think it'd be another decent season for Coventry, but I'll put us to finish around mid-table. I just think it's going to be hard for Coventry City to really kick on without proper investment, but with the players we've got, with the recruitment we've got, and with Mark Robins, I think we'll probably finish mid-table. Next up, Huddersfield Town. Now this is a very tricky one because they're a club that aren't really trending upwards, but they aren't really moving in any direction. I've said before that they're kind of blowing in the wind, and I have a couple of Huddersfield fans on the channel, and they've commented saying they're not really looking forward to next season. I know they've made a couple of decent signings already, which is something that really does help with the early preparations for the season, but I'm going to say Huddersfield Town get relegated. Now, I'm sorry, Huddersfield fans, hear me out. I just think, based on this season, them and Derby were both very lucky that the bottom three didn't get many points in the end. I think Huddersfield survived with about 48, which some seasons you can get relegated with. Now, Huddersfield could definitely prove me wrong. They're a club with a lot of potential. I mean, they were in the Premier League, for God's sake, a few years ago, and they could definitely do better than what they did this season. But based on the season just gone, I'm going to say Huddersfield are going to have a bad season next year and just fall on the wrong side of the relegation zone. But I could be proved wrong, and I might change my prediction again. Next up, you've got Middlesbrough. Now, Middlesbrough, this is a tricky one. Now, they've got Neil Warnock, and you know with Neil Warnock, you've got a very good chance of getting promoted. And Middlesbrough, a club that have obviously been in the Premier League a few times. Very tricky. I'm going to go with 7th to 11th. I think Middlesbrough are just going to miss out on the playoffs again. They're a club for me that have got potential, but didn't seem to put things together throughout the season last year. I think there was times where they really looked like they were going to get 5th or 6th, but I think as the season wore on, they just weren't consistent enough, and the gap really opened up between them and the top 6. So I think Middlesbrough between 7th and 11th. But like I say, guys, these could definitely be wrong. I'm not saying this is set in stone. I might change my predictions yet again, but I have a feeling that these clubs will finish roughly in these positions. Next up, Millwall Football Club. This is tricky. They're a decent, solid Championship team. I do like Millwall. I'm looking forward to going to Millwall away. It's a ground I haven't actually done. Last year, they finished 11th, and a couple seasons before, they finished in 8th place. So I should really be putting them in one of these two categories, but I'm going to put Millwall down in 17th to 21st. Now, I think that is a very bold statement. I think Millwall are a good club, and I'm being a bit harsh there. And I feel like it's because I feel like I've got to put teams down there. I really don't know who to put down there. But for me, Millwall this season, what I've seen of them, especially against Coventry, they weren't all too impressive. Now, on their day, they can turn it on. They're a good team. I mean, they could even make the top 6. They're that much of a good team on their day. But they're so hit and miss that some days they turn up, sometimes they don't. They blow hot and cold, and they really do depend on what kind of form they're in. So I'm going to put Millwall down there. Next up, you've got Preston North End. I'm actually going to say the same as Millwall. Another team that can so easily make the playoffs. They always knock on the door, but I just think Preston over the last couple of years, they've just been knocking on the door and not quite getting in, and then it can kind of eat away at you. And I think McAvoy is a decent manager, but is he a long-term option? Maybe, maybe not. Alex Neil is gone. Preston are going to be a strange team next season. They could definitely do better than that, but I don't know. I'm putting them down there because I'm really not sure with Preston. Next up, you've got Reading Football Club. Now, a team that finished 7th. To be honest, not many people predicted them to be that high. I'm going to put Reading in mid-table. I think Reading, once again, they could knock on the door of the playoffs, but they're a team that really do blow hot and cold as well. Their form after the first 10 games wasn't very good. I mean, the start of the season was electric, but it wasn't sustainable, and they didn't even make the top 6, which I just thought was quite baffling. So I think Reading are going to finish in and around mid-table, but they're a team that so easily could finish higher or could finish lower. Really hard to predict. Next up, you've got Bristol City. Now, I think I'm being a bit outrageous with some of my predictions today, but I'm actually going to put Bristol City in the bottom 3. Now, this could so easily be wrong, and I might change my mind before I do my official predictions next month, but Bristol City ended the season so bad that I was really worried for them. And another team that kind of got lucky that the bottom 3 didn't get many points in the end, because Bristol City survived with around 50. Now, Nigel Pearson's going to be the long-term option. Whether that's a good thing, it's yet to find out, because when he first came in, they won 1 or 2 games, but it literally went down the pan after that. So I'm not sure if things aren't right at Bristol City, if there's underlying issues, because the way he did some of his post-match interviews, he was really attacking the players. And when the manager and players are having that kind of public disruption, it can become a bit of a problem. So Bristol City are a team that I think could fall through the trapdoor next year. But once again, I'm willing to be proved wrong. Next up, you've got Stoke City. Stoke City, they're a strange team, aren't they? I mean, I really could put them anywhere. I'm going to stick them between 7th and 11th because for Stoke City, that's a reasonably safe bet. Against Coventry, I don't think they were too impressive, but over the season they were okay. I think they finished 13th, which isn't great for a club like Stoke. I feel like everyone does predict them to do well, so I could potentially put them one lower, but I'm going to be nice and say they'll be in a playoff battle. But Stoke City, a very strange team. I find it very hard to predict them. Next up, you've got Hull City. Now, obviously, they've just come back up. They won League One. And I know I'm probably going to get a lot of criticism for this. But right now, I'm going to say the 3 that come up all stay up. Hull City in particular as well. I think Hull City definitely, because they were by far the best team in League One. And a bit like Coventry, obviously, the season before, we were the best team in League One. We came up and we were the best team in the Championship the following year. So Hull City, I think, are going to follow that trend. I think they will stay up. I don't think it'll be easy. They could push on towards mid-table, to be honest. But I think putting them down there for me is a safe bet because they've just come up. But as a club, I think they're going to start trending upwards again. I think League One, I don't know how Hull City got down there when you consider they were a Premier League team a couple of years ago. It'll be nice to see Hull back in the Championship. I like them as a club and I hope they stay up, but we'll wait and see. Next up, you've got AFC Bournemouth. Now, for me, this is a really easy one. I think they're going to make the top 6 again. I think this year, some things just didn't click at AFC Bournemouth, but now they have a year of Championship experience under their belt. I think they're ready to go again next year, and they make the top 6 again next year. And I think they could do one better and maybe make the top 2. If they can keep their best players, they've still got the parachute payments coming in, so they really need to try and get up this year, or if not next year, before they run out. But yeah, it really is important that Bournemouth get back into the Premier League ASAP. Otherwise, the best players start to leave, and then you can really set in to be a mid-table Championship team. But I think Bournemouth are going to be way too strong. They've got good players. Next up, you've got Cardiff City. Cardiff, for me, I think they're going to do similar to what they did this season, just around the playoffs, but maybe not quite getting in there. I think they finished 8th this year, and I'm willing to say they'll finish roughly the same this year. I think Cardiff City are a tricky team to predict as well. I think the year before they snuck into the playoffs, and then this year they just missed out. And I'm saying that next year they probably just miss out again. But they could so easily get in there. But then again, Cardiff City, they could be a team that falls away and finish mid-table, because it wasn't until McCarthy came in that they weren't really having that good of a season, then he kind of picked them up. So Mick McCarthy is a full-time manager. That could be good for Cardiff, but we'll wait and see. Next up, Barnsley. Obviously, they made the top 6. Will they do it again? That's everyone's question. I mean, Barnsley are probably the hardest team to predict now, because usually you'd associate Barnsley with the bottom 6 in a relegation battle. But to make the top 6, now you're thinking, what's going to happen next season? I'm going to say they'll have another good season. Not quite the top 6, but I'll say 7th to 11th. I think they could easily make the top 6 again, because we've seen on their day they're a very good team. But I think there's a lot of quality in the Championship next year. I think Barnsley just miss out. Now next up, you've got Sheffield United. I feel like I'm being boring by putting all the three that have come down in the top 6, but it is what happened this season. We saw Norwich, Watford and Bournemouth all make the top 6, and I think that's starting to become quite predictable because the money in the Premier League is absolutely massive. These teams are coming down, and compared to the Championship teams, they've got so much more money. As long as they can get up in the first couple of attempts, they're fine and they're back in the Premier League. And it just becomes really hard for the teams that are stuck in the Championship to try and get up because these three are virtually filling 3 of the top 6 places. As for Sheffield United themselves, will they make the top 2? I'm not too sure about that because the way they were last season, it just wasn't a good season in the Premier League. But I expect them to bounce back. If they keep a lot of their quality, I think David McGoldrick will find his feet and score goals in the Championship. They've obviously brought in a manager now, and I think with a full sustainable summer, Sheffield United should be able to recruit properly and make the top 6 next year. Now next up, we've got Queen's Park Rangers. Now this is a bit of a wild card from me, but I'm going to say Queen's Park Rangers make the top 6. Based on how they finished this season, they really could have got in there. They were absolutely fantastic, and they are a club that are known for getting into the Premier League. I mean, in the last 10 years, they've been in there, 2 or 3 times? So I think QPR will get in the top 6 this time round. When I do my official predictions next month, it might slightly change. They might miss out or they might just get in. I'm not sure. But right now, I just have a feeling about QPR and the way they ended last season. I always think, however a team ends the season before, it can be interesting to see if they can carry it on to the season after. And I think QPR will. I'm going to back them to make the top 6. Now, next up, we've got Blackburn Rovers. We've got 3 clubs left. Blackburn, for me, mid-table. I think they're in no danger of going down. I mean, they've got a lot of quality, and Tony Mowbray, I just think they're too good. But pushing on, it's very hard to see them making the top 6 when they can't seem to be consistent over a season. And it's happened a few times now. They're really good on their day, and on their day, a match for anyone in the Championship. I mean the top teams as well, but they're so inconsistent. They seem to blow hot and cold through the form book, and I think Blackburn will finish mid-table. They'll have their good parts and their bad parts, but ultimately finish in the middle. 2 clubs left. Derby County. Now, what's going to happen with them, I still don't know. Whether they'll start with a points deduction, I'm not sure. Whether it's still to apply in this season, I don't think it will. But based on how this season unfolded, I'm going to say they'll be the 3rd team in the bottom 3. So I'm predicting 3 teams that just survived in the Championship the year before to go down the season after. Now, Derby County, obviously a club with potential. That it wouldn't surprise me if they were to turn around and then finish in the top 12 the season after, because that is how the Championship works, and that is how a team like Derby can do things. I mean, they can have a good season and they can have a bad season. It's very easy for that to happen, but I think it's going to be very hard for things to turn around there after the year they've had this year. They really did survive by the skin of their teeth. I mean, they drew 1 out of their last 8 games, and that was just enough. If they'd lost that one, they'd have gone down. So Derby going down, but it could change. I'll make a decision next month when I know if they're going to get a points deduction or not. It might change. And then the last team is Fulham. They're going to join the top 6 there, as you can see. Swansea, West Brom, Bournemouth, Sheffield United, QPR and Fulham are my top 6. And a word on Fulham, they are just going to be too strong, aren't they? They always are. A bit like West Brom, you can almost guarantee they're going to be in the top 6. Fulham are going to come down with a lot of money. If Scott Parker's still there, then I think they're going to be very strong. And yeah, Fulham should make the top 6. So then, guys, that is my very early 2021-2022 predictions for the Championship. I'm probably going to be very wrong, and I might change my mind next month when I do more predictions, but I thought it'd be fun to do that in a video. Let me know your early thoughts on the Championship. I know it's incredibly early, and it can all change. Teams can get points deductions. They can make different signings over the next month, so it all could change. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace out.